Welcome back, everybrony. Today is Monday, September 12th, 2011, and this is Past Sins Prelude. By popular request, I'm beginning Past Sins today with the prelude. Past Sins. What else can you be when the world can only see a monster? By Penstroke, assisted by Batty Gloom. Pre-read and edited by Action Scripter Night Song, Lightside Loop, Kim Fluttershy Dicus, Vimbert, Var/Varanus, and Cloudvent/Filler. Dedicated to my loving aunt, among the first to encourage me to write. She passed away while this story was being written. She was a third-grade teacher, a mother, a wife, and a dear aunt, and I will miss her greatly. Amidst the dim candlelight, a single unicorn sat with his head bent down, eyes shut. He sat alone at the edge of a still pond, his reflection dancing in the water. The pond was nestled deep within the Everfree forest, the darkened trees and gnarled branches surrounding all sides like silent sentinels. While most of Equestria had just shifted into spring, Everfree was still gripped by clinging bits of winter. Snow covered the ground, and there was still a lingering chill in the air. The unicorn's hot breaths left puffs of steam to curl and rise for a few seconds before disappearing into the night. For a long while, the unicorn had sat in utter silence on the edge of the pond, with only a few nearby candles for company. The light from the tiny flickering flames fell upon his black coat, though black wasn't his natural color. No, his whole body, mane included, had been dyed in the deepest black possible. Even his cutie mark had been covered by the dyes, flank appearing utterly blank. Only the quiet sounds of the forest were audible, the creaking of the trees and the shifting of the pond water. It was a scene of tranquility. The unicorn needed to prepare for the task of the evening. Yet, as he took another deep breath and released it, hoofsteps began to echo across the trees. "Nexus, we're ready when you are." The black unicorn, Spell Nexus, took another breath, turquoise eyes opening as he turned to the pony who had approached him from behind. "I will be along shortly." The pony who had interrupted nodded, disappearing back into the forest. After waiting for the hoofsteps to fade into silence, Nexus lit his horn. As his magic flowed, he reached to his side with the arcane energy, levitating a number of items into the air. "Our queen, guide me in this night," Nexus said as he turned his gaze skyward. "For it is beneath the full moon that our efforts come to fruition." Nexus spoke the words slowly, his voice carrying the tone of a pony well practiced in preaching, whose words could inspire the loyalty of his brothers and sisters. A voice that had drawn great minds and strong bodies to the cause, though at the moment he was speaking only to himself. The black-dyed unicorn lowered his head and touched his hoof to his chest as he said, "Let me be merely a vessel for your will and your strength until the deed is done." The levitating items drew close to him, a cape of midnight blue with white stars across its surface, a chest plate comprised of grayish-purple metal, with a turquoise crescent moon set in its center, horseshoes to match the chest piece, and an armored plate for the back of his neck. "Let me bear your mane." Nexus spoke as he drew the cape over his back. "Both powerful and beautiful, a depiction of the endless sky. Let me stand in uniform." He continued as the armor began to secure itself to his body. "In the armor that pays tribute to your image and greatness. Let me be your agent this night, for it is you I serve above all others." The final piece of armor levitated towards Nexus, a helmet made of the same metal as the chest piece. The unicorn guided the armor carefully, bringing it down across his horn as it fit snugly onto his head. "May your power be with me, for tonight you shall breathe and taste the cool night air for yourself." Nexus spoke as he rose to his hooves. "You shall look upon the world with eyes of your own, and no longer be forced to share a body with a weak bull as you have in the past. Tonight you shall be your own mare, never again threatened by the elements of harmony." Nexus stood, looking at his reflection in the pond. He now appeared the ultimate doppelganger of his mistress, taking on the visage of an eager acolyte, ready to receive her power and knowledge. Through the efforts of him and his group, they would be able to see their queen rise once again. Yet it was only he that was allowed to look so much like the queen, to lead the spell that was about to be cast. It was his place of honor, one no pony would steal from him. "Tonight, Nightmare Moon, your followers shall grant you a life of your own, and the tyrants of sun and moon shall fall." Mentally prepared, Nexus turned and began to walk into the forest, following the trail that connected the pond to another part of the Everfree. Another clearing came into view quickly and was occupied by several unicorns, pegasi, and earth ponies moving about the space as they constantly checked their work. The ground in the clearing had been cleared of snow, though a few piles were left dotted about the space. On both the exposed ground and piles of snow, there were wooden bowls filled with oil-soaked powders. Paint had been used upon the ground to draw arcane lines of power, and in the air above the cloaked pegasi worked to gather clouds, pushing them together to hide the clearing from prying, skybound eyes. All of the ponies Nexus saw wore the black cloak of the Order except for 3, who stood giving orders, a pair of pegasi and an earth pony. They, like Nexus, wore the honored armor, though he alone wore the flowing Starfield cape and the helmet, vestments only he had the honor of wearing. "How close are we, Nightwind?" Nexus asked as he approached the trio. "The cloud cover's almost complete, and the Pegasi only need a few minutes to get their bowls," the dark purple Pegasus answered, staring back at Nexus with her turquoise eyes, a sign of the Order. Through the work of a spell, Nexus blessed each of the children of Nightmare. It was a blessing that carried enlightenment along with the special eyes, which bore their majesties' regal turquoise color. "Good," Nexus said before turning to the Earth Pony. "Stonewall, do you have the items?" "They have not left my sight since our departure from Canterlot, Nexus," the Earth Pony replied, motioning to the bowl that was currently resting on his back. "And Grey Gale, is our special guest awake?" "Oh yeah, she just woke up," the Grey Pegasus of the trio answered, talking far more casually. "And boy is she scared." "That's because you told her Stonewall would snap off her horn if she tried to escape," Nightwind snipped. "Hey, it kept her from trying anything," Grey Gale defended. "She couldn't try anything if she wanted. She's got an anti-magic brace on her neck." "You have all done well," Nexus spoke, stopping the argument before it could go any further. "But now, we must all take our places. Stonewall, take the sacred items to their place in the center of the ritual. Grey Gale, Nightwind, prepare your torches and head into the sky." The 3 nodded, going to their assigned tasks while Nexus turned his attention to one side of the clearing. There, lying on the ground, was a pony, hog-tied with rope and a cloth bag over her head. Treading carefully, Nexus moved between the wooden bowls and approached the hog-tied pony. When he was a few steps away, the cult leader used his magic to remove the bag. The unicorn captive was now fully visible, her violet coat dirty in a few places from the fact that she was lying on the ground. Her darker purple mane was a mess as she looked up at Nexus in fear, undoubtedly noticing the resemblance the unicorn had with a certain fallen princess. "I'm so happy you were able to join us this evening, Miss Sparkle," Nexus said as he looked down at the purple pony. "Who are you? What are you going to do to me?" Twilight asked in a panicked squeak, just barely managing to find her voice as she struggled at the ropes tied around her legs. She had likely tried to use her magic to escape, but was not just bound physically. A metal brace, secured around the unicorn's neck, kept her from making use of her magic. "Inquisitive, though I should expect no less from Celestia's star pupil," Nexus replied, his horn glowing as he picked Twilight up off the ground. With the unicorn floating in his magic, Nexus walked back towards the center of the clearing. There, the Earth Pony Stonewall had set up a metal pedestal, upon which he had set the wooden bowl from his back. "What we have planned for you, Twilight Sparkle, is very simple. As to who we are, well, consider us simply the loyal servants of Equestria's true queen, Her Regal Majesty Nightmare Moon." "Are you crazy?" Twilight asked, twisting a bit as she was carried upside down by Nexus's magic. "Nightmare Moon is gone. How can you serve some pony who's gone?" "It's much easier than you think, Miss Sparkle. I will not, however, spoil the surprise. For the moment, all you need to know is that your contribution is appreciated." Nexus replied as he placed the bag over Twilight's head, securing it tightly and placing a sound-dampening spell across the fabric. The mare continued to protest, despite the fact that her words were muffled by the spell-infused bag. Leaving Twilight floating in the air, Nexus walked over to the metal pedestal. He examined the contents of the wooden bowl set upon the tall, narrow metal table, eyes glinting in anticipation. Inside the bowl were curled sheets of what looked like paper, but they were a purple color, and one of the pieces had a big turquoise crescent moon on its surface. He then turned his attention to a dagger resting beside the bowl, picking it up with his magic. The stallion then looked back at Twilight, who continued to twist, flail, and shout muffled protests. He drew close to Twilight, and, after lowering her a little closer to the ground, Nexus proceeded to give the mare a swift kick in the stomach. The kick made Twilight stop flailing, the unicorn hanging limply in Nexus's magic as she tried to catch the breath that had been knocked out of her lungs. In the moment Twilight hung motionlessly, Nexus drew the dagger's blade across part of Twilight's leg, leaving a very shallow wound. It was no worse than a paper cut, but it brought muffled screams of panic from the unicorn, as if he had done far worse. The wound began to bleed gently, a few drops of blood weeping out. Nexus used the blade to gather these drops on the dagger blade, then placed both into the wooden bowl with Nightmare Moon's remains. Yes, the spark of life from one who bears the element of magic. May it grant our queen invulnerability against those cursed elements of harmony. Nexus whispered, levitating Twilight back to the edge of the clearing, dropping her unceremoniously at the base of the tree as he approached the metal pedestal. Slowly, Nexus drew in breath, releasing it as he watched the puff of steam escape into the night air. Then, with one final deep breath, the unicorn leader looked out across the rest of the Children of Nightmare, his voice echoing across the trees as he preached to his followers. Brothers and sisters, for months we have toiled in secrecy. We worked behind the backs of the guards and the tyrant princesses, putting our own safety at risk. Personal fortunes have been spent along with many hours to bring us to this point. But now we are ready. The spell is prepared. Tonight, we, the Children of Nightmare, shall see our queen given life, blood, and form of her own. Once, she and Luna were one and the same, but the elements of harmony could not destroy what our queen was. No, that power could only peel her away from the weak foal Luna, could only trap her essence in these precious shreds. It was a horrible fate, but it is because of the elements of harmony's inability to destroy our queen that we can stand here tonight. For tonight, this spell will give the essence of our queen life of its own. Never again shall she be shackled to the meek Princess Luna. And, with our aid, she will come to rule all of Equestria within a year of her tragic defeat. Now, lend your magic to the spell, for our time of victory is at hoof! Nexus called out, rearing back triumphantly before slamming his forehooves down into the ground. Let Nightmare Moon be born anew! The cult members quickly went about their work. The unicorns formed a circle around the clearing, their horns glowing as the lines of paint they had drawn on the forest floor came to life with a blue incandescence. Stonewall, one of the few earth ponies, walked around the circle and, with a torch, lit the bowls filled with oil-soaked powders, which burned with an eerie blue flame. As the fires grew, the air in the clearing became so thick with magic it almost became tangible. Join me back here in just a moment for part 2 of the Past Sins Prelude.